Hey guys, are you getting ready to apply for the University of California? And have you maybe procrastinated and are you trying to figure out how to write the most awesome essay ever? Or maybe you're not procrastinating at all and maybe you're applying like in a year or 3 and you're just wondering some tips for what goes into an awesome application to the University of California. Either way, in this video, I am going to give you the down low on University of California essays. My name is Brooke. I have been tutoring and teaching for over a decade and a half. I help students not only with SAT and ACT prep, but also with the college essay process. I'm California-based, so I work with lots of students who go to UC schools, who applied to UC schools. So I see a lot of these essays coming across my desk. I'm going to share with you guys some of my insights from that work. If you are still trying to get in one last take of the SAT or ACT, or if you're in this for the long haul, we do have a sale going on for Black Friday if you're watching this right as it comes out. If it's not right when it comes out, we're not going to have that Black Friday sale anymore, but go check out our website, SupertutorTV.com. If so, and regardless, you can go check out the best SAT prep course ever and the best ACT prep course ever. They are video-based prep courses for the ACT and the SAT. Each includes over 100 hours of video content. So go check out our site if you are looking for test prep awesomeness, and subscribe to our mailing list, SupertutorTV.com/subscribe, to be in the know of when we have anything awesome going on at Super Tutor TV, any special deals, any special giveaways, cool advice, interesting facts you should know. It will be in our free newsletter. So sign up there. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, check us out, follow us, stay in the loop. Okay, cool. So let's talk UC essays. If you want some of this stuff written out, some of my tips written out, or a downloadable guide where I give you like all of the awesomeness of advice, head to our website, SupertutorTV.com, to the blog. We're going to put the exact blog link in the description of the video, or I usually do like a pinned comment too. So if you go down to the comments and search a little ways, you can find it. Okay, cool. I'm going to do 2 things in this video. The first thing I'm going to do is go over a couple of general tips, but I'm not going to go over a lot of general tips because most of the general tips I've already covered in a bunch of other videos, which you can watch, and we'll put up some thumbnails here. I'm just going to go over really quickly review a couple of tips that are particular to UC essays that I find are some of the biggest mistakes that students make. The number one is do not repeat. You've got 4 essays that are 350 words each. A lot of you think, oh, that's a lot of ideas to come up with. I'll just take my Common App and split it into 2 and then have 2 essays that are basically about the same thing. Don't do that. If you want to talk about your awesome soccer team, that's great, but please don't talk about your soccer team in all 4 essays if you can help it. And if you're going to talk about your soccer team in more than one, then those essays should feel really different, or they should be about totally different themes, or they should have completely different vibes in some way, right? You want to differentiate yourself. You want to diversify what you're submitting so that you don't sound like this redundant person. Second tip, make sure that you take the time to tell stories. Another mistake that students make on UC application essays is they're 350 words and you guys think, oh gosh, that's not very many words. I don't have time to tell a story. I'll just straight up answer the question. Right? I know this is ironic, but your job is not to answer the question on your college application essays. If all you do is answer the question, you will not necessarily have the best results or outcome. So this is not just about answering the question. It's about showing who you are. It's about helping the admissions committee understand how awesome, how wonderful, how inspiring, and how lovely you are. And you've got to share all that awesomeness on the page, and that's your job, okay? It is not to answer the question. Remember, the other thing too is you can always write long and cut down. So write 500, cut it down to 350. It's going to be a better essay, trust me. Okay, cool. Now let's talk questions. I'm going to go quickly through each of the essay prompts and just talk about some tips for each of them, some common mistakes, some common ways that you can write an essay that works for each of these. Number 1, describe an example of your leadership experience. Remember, leadership experience doesn't have to be literal. One of the biggest things that I have people do with this essay is they think leadership has to be literal, and then they just talk about whatever club they're the captain of or the leader of, which sometimes works, but sometimes it's kind of boring. And sometimes you actually show more leadership in contexts where it's not actually official leadership. You know, maybe you're a great example for your little brother, and that's a way that you show leadership and you show him how to be a better person. Think of the experience that you've had where you've stepped up, where you've like shown your maturity, where you've shown like, hey, like I'm doing the right thing. Hey, I'm gonna like reach out to people. Hey, like I have an influence over people And I'm going to show you a story where that happened and how that happened. The other thing that I'll say is you always want to make sure that you go deeper. One of the issues that I find in a lot of UC essays, because you are at that sort of 350 word limit, is that a lot of you guys like only write to 250 words and then add a little fluff. And basically you just describe like, here's what I did, but you don't necessarily take the time to reflect. And it's important that you guys do actually reflect. So I want you guys to ask yourselves more questions after you ask yourself the initial question, like describe your leadership experience. Okay, that's great. But I want you to think about, how did your experience teach you a lesson about yourself? What did you learn, right? How did your perspective change from the experience that you had? How did it make you stronger? What were the unexpected challenges that you faced? And how did you overcome those? In any case, I want you to think about what actions you take and what decisions you make. Again, those are always defining qualities of you, and that's what makes your essay interesting. Decisions you make and actions you take. It rhymes. It's cool. Number 2, every person has a creative side. This is our creative essay. Again, one of the mistakes people make is they just describe their creative activities as if it's a bloated resume. What I actually want you to do is take me with you and like take me on this creative journey. In fact, you can use like a creative means of even writing this if you want. Answer more questions than just the prompt. Why does creativity matter? How does creativity manifest itself in your life? I've read a lot of good creativity essays where students write about that like awe-inspiring, sort of flow that they get into. Other good essays I've seen on creativity: in what ways does creativity offer a retreat, an escape, a new vision for your life? In what ways has creativity helped you better understand yourself? Right? I did drama in high school. That like totally opened up a whole new window to understanding how my emotions work. And I wrote an essay about that for my graduate school application. If you have an aha moment that creativity gave you, a moment that you unlocked, don't be afraid to just tell stories and have creativity be a theme within that story. That's totally cool. You don't just have to have a description of, I like to paint pictures. I like painting cats and dogs. It is fun. Like boring, dull, I don't want that. I want to know, take me to the magical place. If creativity is a magic place for you, take me there with you. And if you're like, Brooke, but I'm not actually creative. Well, maybe you're a problem solver and you can write about the love of problem solving. I also have people who write about that and that works fine. Okay, cool. Greatest skill. If your biggest achievement is obvious, like an extracurricular activity, obviously write about that, right? If you, are a champion fencer and you're the best fencer in the state of California, that is obviously your greatest skill or talent. You're going to write about that here. This is a good place to write about it. The one thing that I would avoid talking about is how your greatest talent or skill is being hardworking. The reason I say that is because it's just the kind of thing that's a little bit cliche, and I know I've covered this in other videos, but just telling me you're hardworking, I just want to look at your GPA. Like, do your grades reflect hardworking or not? They either are or they aren't. The other thing that you can do too with this essay is you can be more non-literal about it, right? I've had people write about their empathy as their greatest skill, or their ability to listen as their greatest skill, or their intuition, or whatever it is, right? It can be a personal quality as well. And then story, people. Use stories to reveal that personality trait of yourself. So this is also a place where you can just reveal a trait of your personality using a story, which is cool. And you can do that too. Just know that a lot of people do that, so make sure your essay definitely has some personality and specificity and is you, and it shows what makes you you, and it shows what you value and all that good stuff. Next, describe how you've taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity or worked to overcome an educational barrier you have faced. So if you have horrible grades somewhere on your transcripts, this is the place to duke it out and figure it out and talk about it, okay? If you had an issue at some point in your learning because something happened in your life, maybe you had a really close relative pass away or something and it was really hard for you to adjust. Maybe you got like some crazy illness. Maybe you got meningitis sophomore year of high school and you had to miss 3 months of school and your teachers wouldn't let you make up your grades or something crazy like that. That would be an educational barrier you faced, okay? This is also a great place to talk about your environment if you happen to have a really terrible, level of resources educationally. If you go to a craptastic high school and it's really tough and you want to describe that world that you come from and it is like not very awesome and this is something that you've had to overcome, Please, please talk about that here. UC loves stories of people who survive and who really thrive in their context. They love accepting students who, you know what, you might have really unimpressive ACT or SAT scores, but you have an awesome GPA and you're graduating at the top of your class, and gosh darn it, you're going to college even though like 80% of your high school isn't, and you don't care, and you're looking forward and you're getting out of whatever situation you're in. If that is you, UC loves you guys. UC loves kids who go to public schools. They do not care how good your high school is, they care how good you are. And so if you have overcome educational barriers, if you are fighting the good fight, and that is your story, this is the essay for you people. Please write here. On the other end of the spectrum, the other thing you can write about here is, if you are more on the privileged end of the world, is if you have the opportunity to learn something really cool or enrich yourself in some way and you really loved it, this is a place that you can write about that. You know, maybe you went to a community college class and took like community college genomics or something this summer, and it was super cool and awesome, and you want to write about that. That could be a significant educational opportunity. Be careful with the educational experiences or significant educational opportunities. If it's like a week long, is that really significant? You know, just going to camp for a week, maybe it was, maybe you had a real epiphany, maybe it wasn't, but don't force it. If you don't actually feel like it was significant, please don't force it to fit here and find something else. Remember, educational can also be taken in a non-literal way, in the same way that I've talked about these other essays. You don't have to take it literally. It doesn't have to be actual school. It can be, I lived with my grandmother in Appalachia for this summer, and you like had your eyes opened because those people live in a way that is so different from your urban, you know, lifestyle in San Diego. The last thing that I'm going to say about this one and educational barriers is, remember my college essays that suck. If you guys have watched that, I talk about the avoid the I got an A essay. And just a quick little reminder here, do not give me an I got an A essay for this one. Cool. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch our college essays that suck video. Okay, number 5. Describe the most significant challenge you have faced, steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? So this 1 and 4 can overlap, so just make sure you don't write about the same thing. But this one's a little bit broader in terms of what kind of challenges you can have. If you have a disability of some sort, if you have something that's life-defining that you feel like your application is not complete without it, this is the place to write about it. You know, if you are, you know, legally blind, if you've got like other crazy things going on, and it's a big part of who you are and what you've overcome, this is where you're going to talk about it. This can also be a normal kind of challenge, but be careful. Mistake that a lot of students make when they write about challenges, they write about things that are actually not that big of a deal, and they act as if they are a big deal. So make sure you don't get too melodramatic in this essay, in the sense that, you know, the most significant challenge you have faced, like, please do not tell me your most significant challenge was the algebra test you had last week. That's the most significant thing you've ever dealt with in your life. So just make sure you don't pick something that's like too trite. It doesn't mean you can't pick something that's normal and everyday, but if you do, try to pick something that really spurred growth in you as a human being, right? Try to pick something that's representative of something bigger. Make sense? So maybe your most significant challenge you faced was confronting yourself, or confronting a part of yourself, right? Remember, there's gonna be a lot of people writing here that have like total grit stories. And if you have that grit story, remember my wow factor video, the last element of the wow factor video, the grit story, the like sob story, if you wanna call it that. If that's you, you can put that here. Like if you have a super challenging life and you've had like really rough times, boom, this is the place. And then whatever it is at the end of the day, the other danger in number 5 is don't be too negative. Remember, you need to overcome the challenge. Do not write about a challenge you still haven't overcome. Now, that doesn't mean you have to totally have overcome the challenge, because some challenges like stay with us for our whole lives. And that's okay, but you have to at least have overcome it emotionally, right? You have to be on the optimism side of life. You have to be seeing the sunlight. You have to be seeing the glass half full. It doesn't mean that you don't still have the challenge, but you have to have overcome it in terms of like you being like bigger than the challenge, okay? You've got to come out on top. You've got to win. Number 6, academic subject that inspires you. Oftentimes this essay turns into a fluffy resume essay. I talk about this also in college essays that suck, so if you want my whole rundown on why your essay shouldn't sound like a bloated resume in paragraph form, you can go and check that out. It's very true here. They changed the wording of this question in the last few years, and they now include the word inspires you, and I think that is totally on purpose, because what they found is the essays that are most powerful in this position are ones that capture a sense of awe and excitement. If something inspires you, show me how it inspires you. Share with me the inspiration so that when I read about it, I'm inspired and I'm like, wow, I want to do that too. Okay? That's going to make this more powerful. Number 7. What have you done to make your school or community a better place? Arguably, this is the hardest essay out of all 8 that you have to choose from. When you talk about yourself and you're like, I did this and I made my community a better place, it's really easy for you to come off as a self-aggrandizing sort of white savior or whatever you are, helping the children of my community or whatever it is that you're doing. This often comes down to being a community service essay. And again, those are like the hardest essays to write. It does not mean you can't write them. And it doesn't mean that if you have something that's really important to you that's community service oriented, that you shouldn't talk about it. You should. If you are a total leader in community service, if community service is totally your jam, if giving to others is like your number 1 modus operandi, whatever, this is the essay you should be writing. But it can be really hard to write. And I will say a lot of students choose this because they go, oh, I did community service. I'm going to write about how I tutored kids and how I read books to them at the library once a week. That essay is usually really boring. And it goes something like this. I was part of the After School with Kids learning program. At the After School with Kids learning program, we once a week would go to the local library and read to kids. It was so rewarding to see the smiles on their faces when they heard our stories. I found that by giving a little bit of my time, I could make a difference in my community. That essay doesn't work as well because it just feels generic, and I feel like 700 students are going to write that essay. I don't recommend that you're one of them. At the same time, you can write a good story here if you've got a good story and it's original and it doesn't sound as cheesy and cliche as what I just said. Just because you have community service does not mean you need to write this essay. I encourage you to try to write anything else if you can, but if you know that this is your story, if you have a real passion for something about making the world a better place or about environmental issues or whatever it is and you fought for it because it like tears your heart apart and you could cry. If you can make me almost cry too, you can write this essay. Okay, you're allowed to write this then, but do not give me that cliche community service, I'm sharing and caring essay. Last one, number 8. Okay, this is the grab bag anything you want essay. This is a great essay. I love this essay topic on the UCs because what it allows you to do is take whatever your best essay is that you already turned in on your Common App or your early decision or whatever else you've filled out and recycle it and cut it down here. And it could be an awesome essay. The other thing that I like to say is make a list of all the things that colleges should know about you and all the lovable qualities that you have. And then make sure you've checked off all those boxes. And if there's any box that has not been checked off, boom, put it here. My best advice here too is don't just write freeform. Try to have a prompt of some sort that you're responding to, and I think that will give your essay a little more shape and make sure you get the reflection in. That's all I have for today. Good luck with your UC application, procrastinators. Power to you, or non-procrastinators who might be viewing this at a different time. Good for you for planning ahead, and hopefully you will find some good tips in this video. If you guys have any thoughts or questions, go ahead and post them below this video in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. And we will see you guys next time on SupertutorTV. Ciao for now.